A lost fox wandered deeper into the shadows of Willowbrook Forest, stopping cold when she heard something ancient breathing in the branches above. Rosalind had always considered herself capable. She had grown up on the eastern edge of the forest, where the meadows met the tree line, and she had spent her days learning to hunt, to run, to survive. But tonight everything felt different. The familiar paths had twisted into unfamiliar shapes, and the darkness pressed against her like something alive. She had left home 3 days ago, determined to find her own territory, to prove that she could make it on her own. Her mother had warned her about traveling through the deep woods at night, but Rosalind had brushed off the advice. She was an adult now. She didn't need warnings. But standing here surrounded by towering oaks whose branches blocked out the stars, Rosalind felt something she hadn't felt in years: fear. A sound broke through the silence, a low, resonant hoot that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Rosalind's ears flattened against her head, and she crouched low, her amber eyes scanning the canopy above.
You're quite far from the meadows, aren't you?
The voice was calm, unhurried, like water flowing over smooth stones. Rosalind spun around, her heart pounding, but she saw nothing. Then, slowly, a shape detached itself from the darkness. A great horned owl, his feathers the color of bark and moonlight, his eyes 2 golden orbs that seemed to hold centuries of watching. "Who are you?" Rosalind demanded, her voice sharper than she intended. The owl tilted his head, a gesture that somehow conveyed both amusement and patience.
My name is Aldrich. I've lived in these woods for longer than most trees can remember. And you, young fox, are lost.
Rosalind bristled.
I'm not lost. I'm just taking my time.
Aldrich blinked slowly, his expression unchanged.
Of course. Taking your time in circles, then. You've passed that crooked elm 3 times in the last hour.
Rosalind opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She had noticed the crooked elm. She just hadn't wanted to admit what it meant.
Fine, she muttered. Maybe I'm a little turned around. But I can figure it out. I don't need help.
Aldrich spread his wings slightly, then folded them again.
I'm sure you can. But the forest at night is not simply a place of navigation. It is a place of voices, of feelings, of stories you cannot see. If you wish to find your way, you must learn to listen, not just with your ears, but with something deeper.
Rosalind frowned.
What are you talking about?
Instead of answering directly, Aldrich lifted off from his branch and glided silently to a lower perch, closer to where Rosalind stood.
Come with me, he said. Just for a little while.
Rosalind hesitated. Every instinct told her to keep moving, to figure things out on her own. But there was something in the owl's voice, a steadiness, a warmth beneath the calm that made her pause.
Fine, she said again. But just for a little while.
Aldrich led her through the undergrowth, moving with a silence that Rosalind could only envy. Despite her natural stealth, every step she took seemed to crack a twig or rustle a leaf. The owl said nothing about it, simply gliding ahead, his golden eyes catching the faint moonlight that filtered through the canopy. They stopped at the edge of a small clearing where a fallen log lay covered in moss and mushrooms. The air here smelled different, richer, damper, full of life that Rosalind couldn't see. "Listen," Aldrich said softly. Rosalind listened. At first, she heard only the usual sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a nightjar, the faint chirping of crickets. But as she stood there, forcing herself to be still, she began to notice something else, a soft, rhythmic sound, almost like breathing. "What is that?" she whispered. "That," Aldrich said, "is Maren, the old badger. She lives beneath this log. She is dreaming." Rosalind stared at the log, suddenly seeing it differently. It wasn't just a piece of dead wood, it was a home, a shelter for someone she had never met. "She dreams of her youth," Aldrich continued, his voice barely above a murmur. "Of running through fields before the farmers came and changed the landscape. Of her mate, who passed many winters ago. Her breathing is heavy because her dreams are full of longing." Rosalind felt something shift in her chest. How do you know all that? Aldrich's eyes seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Because I have watched her for many years. I have seen her joys and her sorrows. I have listened, not just to her sounds, but to the story behind them. Every creature in this forest carries such a story, Rosalind. The question is whether we choose to hear it. Rosalind looked at the log again, imagining the badger curled up beneath it, lost in memories of a world that no longer existed. For the first time that night, she forgot about her own troubles. They moved on deeper into the forest. Aldrich showed her a hollow tree where a family of raccoons huddled together for warmth, their soft chittering a language of comfort and reassurance. He pointed out a spider's web glistening with dew and spoke of the patience and artistry it took to create something so delicate. She rebuilds it every night, Aldrich said of the spider. Every night, without complaint. There is a kind of courage in that, don't you think? Rosalind nodded slowly, her perspective shifting with every step. The forest she had seen as an obstacle, a maze to be conquered, was revealing itself as something far more complex. A tapestry of lives, each one interconnected, each one meaningful. They reached a stream where the water caught the moonlight and scattered it like diamonds. On the far bank, a deer stood drinking, her ears twitching at every sound.
She lost her fawn to illness last spring, Aldrich said quietly. She comes here every night, to the place where they used to drink together. She is not just thirsty, she is remembering.
Rosalind watched the deer, her heart aching. She thought of her own mother standing at the edge of the meadow 3 days ago, watching Rosalind leave. Had there been sadness in her eyes? Rosalind hadn't looked back long enough to see.
Why are you showing me all this? Rosalind asked, her voice thick.
Aldrich settled onto a branch overlooking the stream.
Because you are lost, and not just in the physical sense. You left your home seeking independence, seeking to prove yourself. But you brought with you the belief that strength means going it alone, that understanding means knowing the way. True understanding, Rosalind, comes not from certainty, but from openness. Not from seeing, but from feeling. Not from knowing the path, but from listening with the heart.
Rosalind sat down heavily, her legs suddenly weary.
I thought leaving would make me feel free, she admitted. But I just feel alone.
Freedom and connection are not opposites, Aldrich said gently. They are partners. A fox who runs through the forest without awareness of those around her is not truly free. She is merely isolated. But a fox who moves through the world with empathy, who understands that every sound in the darkness is a voice with its own story. She carries the forest with her wherever she goes.
They sat in silence for a long moment. The deer finished drinking and moved away into the shadows, her steps careful and quiet. The stream continued its soft murmuring, indifferent to the weight of the conversation happening on its banks.
I didn't say goodbye properly, Rosalind said finally. To my mother. I was so focused on leaving, on starting my own life, that I didn't even look back.
And now?
Now I wish I had.
Aldrich hooted softly, a sound that seemed almost like a sigh.
The beautiful thing about hearts, young fox, is that they can reach across distance. Your mother knows you love her, even if you didn't say the words. And you can still say them, perhaps not in the way you imagined, but in the way you carry her lessons with you, in the way you treat others, in the way you listen.
Rosalind looked up at the owl, seeing him differently now. He wasn't just a wise old creature dispensing advice. He was someone who had spent a lifetime watching, feeling, understanding. There was a loneliness in that, she realized. A profound solitude that came from being the one who always listened but was rarely heard.
What about you? She asked. Who listens to your stories?
Aldrich was silent for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was softer than before.
You are listening now.
The words hung in the air between them, delicate and significant. Rosalind felt something bloom in her chest, gratitude perhaps, or something deeper. She had come into this forest seeking her own way, and instead she had found connection.
Thank you, she said simply.
Aldrich nodded.
The forest has many gifts to offer, if we are willing to receive them. Now shall I show you the way to the northern meadows? I believe you'll find good hunting there, and perhaps a place to call your own.
Rosalind stood, shaking the damp leaves from her fur.
Yes, but could we take our time? I'd like to keep listening.
For the first time, Aldrich's stern face seemed to soften into something like a smile.
There is no finer request a student can make.
They traveled together through the remaining hours of darkness, Aldrich showing her hidden paths and introducing her to the whispered secrets of the forest. They paused to watch a family of mice scurrying to gather seeds, their tiny voices filled with urgency and determination. They listened to the wind moving through the highest branches, carrying the scent of rain from distant hills. As the first grey light of dawn began to seep through the canopy, they reached the edge of a wide meadow. The grass was tall and silver with dew, and the air smelled of clover and possibility.
This is where I leave you.
Aldrich said, settling onto a branch at the forest's edge. Rosalind looked out at the meadow, then back at the owl.
Will I see you again?
Perhaps, Aldrich said. The forest is smaller than it seems when you know how to listen. But whether we meet again or not, remember what you learned tonight. Every creature you encounter carries a story. Every sound in the darkness is a voice asking to be heard. And true understanding, true connection, comes not from the sharpness of your eyes or the speed of your legs, but from the openness of your heart.
Rosalind nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle into her bones.
I'll remember.
She turned toward the meadow, then paused.
Aldrich, thank you for everything.
The owl blinked slowly, his golden eyes warm.
Go well, Rosalind, and listen always.
She stepped into the meadow, the tall grass brushing against her sides. Behind her, she heard the soft whisper of wings as Aldrich lifted off and disappeared back into the forest. But she didn't feel alone anymore. The sounds of the waking world surrounded her. Birdsong, the rustle of small creatures, the distant lowing of cattle, and she heard each one as a voice, a story, a life intertwined with her own. As the sun rose over Willowbrook Forest, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Rosalind made a silent promise. She would find her territory, build her life, become the independent fox she had set out to be. But she would do it with her heart open, her ears attuned to the whispers of the world around her. Because true strength, she now understood, wasn't about going it alone. It was about moving through the world with awareness and compassion, recognizing that every creature, from the dreaming badger to the grieving deer to the wise old owl, was part of the same great story. And she was honored to be listening.